Welcome to the Shulamite Podcast, an extension of Shulamite Ministries and Shulamite.com, with weekly interviews and teaching with author and speaker Martha Kilpatrick and hosted by John Enslow. This weekly podcast is a way to stay connected to the ministry. So come experience anointed messages, not giving just another method, but a living impartation.
Well, here's something, you're with everything that's going on right now, you're hearing a lot of people say the church needs to mount up. Mm-hmm. We need to be on the offensive. We need to move forward. There's all this lock and load kind of talk. Do you know what I mean? So, but what I think the problem with that message is, yeah, the church does need to lock and load, but I think that the real message is what you're saying right now. You have the key. We don't lock and load and decide how we're going to mount an offensive and defeat the enemy and bring down evil forces and demonic entities and principalities of the air. That's not it. That's not it. It's what you've said. You will automatically mount up if you're in the mind.
Yes.
If you're under the head, you will mount up because Christ is mounted.
But to not do it that way is to take his place and reject God as head and as Christ as head.
And I think that's going to be a big problem.
Yes.
Because if you're focused on mounting up, if you're focusing on being a military force, you miss it.
You miss it because it's still the person. It cannot ever not be Christ. Everything is Christ.
The focus is get the will. Be under the head in the will. Mm-hmm. And then you literally, his mounting will be your mounting.
Yes. And he will then initiate the prayers.
Wow, I just saw something.
Okay, what?
Wow. They will be caught up in the air. Wow. Okay, so that you will be caught up in the air. You're only caught up in the air if you're under the headship. There's no way that you can. He literally is coming mounted. And you will be a part of that mounting if you're under the head and in the will. Only. He's coming. You always see the pictures of, thousands of people behind him. And what if it's just him? We are part of him, his body. Mm-hmm. And what if we're as a member of his body? Maybe it's his mounting. And you have to be under the head in the will.
In the flow of the will.
To be him.
Yes.
It's literally him.
Mm-hmm. Only him. It's
him, yeah. It's him, not thousands of people behind him coming while he's running a horse in front. It's him. Do you see what I'm saying?
I can hardly take it in, but yes, I see.
I just saw that. Maybe it's all him. Maybe he doesn't need anything else. It's just whether you'll be a part of it. Mm-hmm. And the only way is that you're under the head in the will. I also saw a picture of, when we're in church, you don't know if it's going to be the pastor that's under the head or if it's going to be a little old lady on the front row that's praying. And it's almost like going outside and in the summer and you have all the lightning bugs and you have all the mosquitoes. You don't know who's the lightning bug and who's the mosquito until the light. And in this vision, in this little object lesson, those that are under the head in the will glow. Those that don't are just bloodsuckers.
Mm-hmm. They're not in the head. They're not in the church.
They're in a church, but they're not the church.
They're in an organization,
right?
But they're not in the.
It's either going to be glowworm, lightning bug, or you're going to be a bloodsucking.
Well, it says
mosquito.
It says if the light that is in you it'll illuminate your whole body. And the actual word is you'll be a glowworm. So you're really quoting scripture. But these are times where we have to know God's will. That's what we've been experiencing. We have to know His will. And we have to know it from outside of ourselves and even outside of each other. Now, 2 is church. That's the minimum. So that is dynamic in itself. I'm not discrediting that. But when we didn't come together to figure it out together, we came together after we had all heard. And I want to see more of that.
We came together because we were together.
Yes, we had been put together in the body. In the body, we were together.
We were in, yeah. Yeah. Well, we had an example of this. You want to tell about the car?
Yes, by all means.
We had an example of this, and a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, I got T-boned. A lady ran a red light. I was coming out into an intersection. I was at the light, and the light turned green, and I couldn't see around the car. That I usually look both ways to see, if there was a car running the red light. And there was a lady in the turn lane next to me, and I was going to cross the intersection to go to a gas station. So I couldn't see around because she was there. So the light turned green, and I slowly proceeded out. I got right in the middle of the intersection, and a lady at 50 miles an hour ran into my door and just slammed me. So it ended up, I didn't think it was going to total my car, and I was begging God not to let it total my car, and the shop said it wasn't going to, but it ended up that when they started taking parts off of the car, they said, oh, okay, well, you're going to have a whole new dash because it bent the dash. So regardless, they totaled me out.
But the miracle was, John, that you were not hurt.
No, I wasn't hurt. I was completely knocked senseless. It took me like 20 minutes till my brain was going.
When they called me,
I called you, but it was probably felt like someone else because I barely could.
Right, and you were having to deal with it and so forth. And so, anyway, Jean drove me, and we came and met you and picked you up. But you went to the emergency room,
right?
And they told you were going to have pain. They gave you painkillers.
And muscle relaxers.
Mm-hmm. And they said, pain is going to come into your back, into your spine.
Yeah, it's going to roll down your neck, and it's going to go into your back. And they said, today, right now, is the best you're going to feel for the next 3 or 4 days.
And it never happened.
It never happened.
You slept that first night, you told me.
I did.
And it's an amazing thing. And then we went to our doctor, and it's the chiropractor. And he told you could have been easily paralyzed.
Absolutely. This is the accident that could have been like Christopher Reeves. That top axis shifted in Reeves's accident, and he was paralyzed. And he said they call it the hangman's bone because literally when you shift that's what they're looking to shift because it paralyzes you and stops you from breathing. Mine had shifted, but it only shifted a little bit, and he was able to get it back in, and no problem.
And so the whole recovery was miraculous.
Totally.
I'm convinced there were angels.
Yeah, something happened, really. 50 miles an hour to my door without, I didn't have any bruise from the seat belt. I didn't have any broken bones. I had a little bruise on my arm against the door.
The size of a quarter.
It was the size of a quarter. It literally, yeah.
And then you were tired. You were very tired.
I was tired.
But you didn't suffer.
I think I was tired because of the shock, because it really did. I had coffee all over me. The coffee from my cup holder literally spilt everywhere all over the car. Everything that was on the left-hand side of the car was on the right. I couldn't even find my phone. My glasses were knocked off. Everything was, I was like, where is my phone? I couldn't even find my phone. So they ended up calling me. I got everything done that day. And then they ended up calling me and saying, we're going to be totaling your car. This is how much we're going to give you, blah, 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 blah. And I realized, I've got to do this horrible process of finding a car. I did not want to do that. I don't enjoy that process. I don't like dealing with used car salesmen. I can't stand that. Because I don't do the whole, well, I'll blah, 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 kind of trying to knock them down on the price. I don't do that. I'm going to give you what you're asking for and trust that so anyway. So we had a friend of ours looking for a car for me, and, I was looking for something that was like my car. And because of COVID, there was not a lot of availability. They said that basically because of COVID, the new cars weren't selling and used cars were selling, and there was a higher premium placed on the used cars, and there weren't as many available. And I found that. I just absolutely found that. So how about a Jeep? You want a Jeep? I'm like, oh no, I don't want a Jeep. So, ended up, I said, okay, I'm going to see what compares to the car that I had. I started looking, and I found one that kind of compared to it, and I started looking for that car. And before I ever really started looking, I had a vision, and I saw a car and I saw a color, and it was an SUV, but it had a specific color. So when I started looking, I was looking for that color. I was saying, well, that's what I saw. So and none of the cars that I saw, none of them that the guy showed me had that color.
And you tell the color.
It was a weird slatey blue. It was not like a baby blue, but it was a real light blue, but it was kind of had a slatey, kind of chalky appearance. And I said, I don't even know what that color is. So I was.
And you would never.
I would never choose that. That would not be my choice ever. I would never choose that color. So I said, okay, fine. But every car that the gentleman that was trying to help me, black, blue, gray, white, silver, gold, every other color you could possibly think. And then I looked and I said, well, okay, how about this year? Does this year even have a blue model? Nope. I said, well, that's just weird. Maybe I thought wrong, heard wrong, whatever. And so I went and I started looking for a car that would compare to it. And I mean, it was almost the very first car that I saw. It was the car with that color. I said, and it's not a brand that I like the brand, but it's not a brand that I would ever go for. So I started calling about that car with that color, and they said, well, yeah, it's here, it's blah, 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 blah. They gave me a whole rundown, and I said, okay, well, it's 2 hours away. I said, why don't I come on down and look at it? So we drove down. We did an initial drive-through with it, and I wasn't fond of it. I wasn't even fond of it. I was like, it doesn't have the storage space. It's smaller, and it's I mean, if I'm going to have to buy another car, I'd like it to have some of the newer technology. I didn't like it. I mean, it was okay. It wasn't a Yugo. I mean, it was it was a nice car, but it was not what I wanted. So I said, well, let's go look. Let's go look at the other ones. So we start looking, and all the ones that they brought. Here's a black one. Here's a silver one. Here's a blue one. Here's this one. I'm going, and they were all they were all more money. And so I said, well, let's go back and look at that one. He says, well, it's out. It's already, somebody's already grabbed it up, and that was a really good deal. And it may have been taken. We'll have to wait till they come back. And I was like, okay, well, if it gets taken, then it's not my car. Okay, I'm whatever. I'm really at this point. I told you the second I saw we were going down to see it. I told you about the vision. It's because I knew it would hold me accountable. Because I could have said, "Oh yeah, I don't think God said that. I think it was someone else," and then get something. My loyalty was for the will and to be under the head. That was my loyalty. And I knew that it could very, very simply, it could be something that I didn't want. But I knew that it would be perfect for me.
Even though.
So they ended up, the guy comes back and said they didn't want that car. And I said, okay, well, let me look at it again. And I said, can I drive it again? And so we drove it around one more time. And I said, it's so much smaller than my car. And it doesn't have the space. And, so how can you be a clampet in this thing and put Granny on the top and have all your, banjos in the back? I can't do it with this. So, I said, okay. And then I just felt like I was supposed to do it. And you had the exact same thing. When you first saw the car, you said, there it is. That's exactly what you there's what you said. And I knew that was right. So I basically said, okay, well, I'm going on the will of God. I'll take the car. And I said, just tint the windows. Let's get at least some tinted windows. So they said, okay, well, we'll tint the windows and we'll get it cleaned up for you. And we were going to pick it up the next day. And so it turned out that, I just got it like yesterday. I just drove it home. It does drive nice through the mountains, which is nice, but it's a totally different experience driving. It's something I'm going to have to get used to. It's a tighter suspension.
Me too.
Yeah. And I, we live in the mountains and I don't want it to make you sick. And, it's easy when you're driving up the mountain and you have a tight turning radius to get nauseous because my other car just floated around the curves. This thing is tighter. So there's a purpose. There's a deep purpose to it. And, but the ultimate deal was, will you be under my will? I knew that I would be blessed under the will. I knew that even if it wasn't my will, that I followed his will in the car that he wanted for me. You don't see this color anywhere. This is not a normal color. Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay, I will I will get it. I will do this. This is it. This is my car. This is what he's chosen for me. So this is what I get. And
we hope you've enjoyed the Shulamite podcast. For all the latest from Shulamite Ministries, please visit us at Shulamite.com, where you'll find Martha's daily devotions, posts from GetAlongWithGod.com, and the online library of all of Martha's writings. At Shulamite.com, downloading the free Shulamite app is easy, and LivingChristianBooks.com is only a click away. Thank you for joining us on this journey to discover a God worth knowing.